Hey there, my name is Nicole Antoinette and I'm a psychic medium, and in this video I am going to show you a very simple method that will help you to connect to your loved ones on the other side. You do not need to be a medium to do this. You do not have to be psychic. You do not have to be intuitive. You simply need to have an open mind, and you need to have some of the tools that I'm about to share with you right now. So what you're going to need is a set of blank index cards. I recommend having at least 10 of them. You'll need some pen and some markers to write with. You will also want to have your phone nearby, and if you don't have a phone, you'll want to use your tablet or your computer, and I'll talk about why that is in a moment. So what you're going to do with these index cards is you're essentially going to make communication cards. What you're going to do is you're going to focus in on just one of your loved ones on the other side. Now, I know that you may have several people in spirit that you want to connect to, but I'm going to ask you to focus in on just one, at least for now. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your index cards as a way to create specific cards for that particular person so that they can communicate with you directly without the use of a medium. So to tune these cards into the energy of your specific loved one, you want to think about the different things your loved one said quite frequently. I had a client who told me how her father used to use the term, "It's good enough for company," when he liked something. And so when he tried a new restaurant, people asked, "How was it?" He would say, "It's good enough for company." If his wife made a new recipe, tried out a new recipe, and he enjoyed it, and someone asked, "How did you like it?" he would say, "It's good enough for company." So it's kind of his catchphrase, "It's good enough for company." And so my client used that as one of the phrases that she placed on her card. And I'm going to tell you the rest of that story a little later, but for now, just put it in the back of your mind as we continue to work through these cards. Now, your loved one had core values. There were things about your loved one on the other side that were very, very important to him or her. There were things that he or she said frequently. There may have been really stupid puns that got under your skin that he or she said frequently, but now you would give anything to hear that pun. There were different ways that your loved one expressed her love. There was a different way that he said yes or no. There were sayings and phrases and sarcastic remarks and gestures that they made frequently because that was part of their personality, that was part of their identity. And so I want you to really tune into those phrases, into the things that were important to your loved one. And I want you to remember how your loved one spoke, how they got their messages across. Because what's important is that you are going to use one index card per saying. And we really want these communication cards to be in tune, in complete tune with their personality and with their energy. So if your loved one never said no, if you asked a question and the answer was no, he may not have said no directly. He may have said, "You know what, let me think about it," or "I'm not sure that's a good idea." If that's how your loved one said no, then that's what I want you to write on this card. I want you to write down, "I'm not sure that's a good idea." The next card you may want to write down would be something to the effect of, "I love you." How did your loved one say "I love you"? Now, maybe they just outright said it. Maybe they hugged. Maybe they were a hugger and not so verbal. So if your loved one expressed their love to you through hugs, then write down "big hug," or write something like that on your card. But really think about how they express themselves. Think about your interactions with them. And remember, use one card per phrase, per saying, per statement, because you are going to use these cards later to communicate with your loved one, and you need to make sure that each statement is separate so that when you ask questions later on, the answers are going to make sense. There are people who have a difficult time with this because they don't remember the different things that their loved one said. And this can be really difficult because you may be so overcome by the experience of grief that it's hard for you to remember the things that you want to remember, because our mind has this way of repeating trauma, of repeating things we don't want to remember. And so when we're trying to tune into specific memories, it's almost like we don't have access to them because we keep remembering the things we don't want to remember. And so to get past that, to get through that, here's the little hack. You can take your phone or your computer or your tablet and go through the emails that your loved one sent to you. Go through the text messages, listen to the voicemails that they left. Look at their Instagram posts, look at their Facebook posts. Wherever they were active on social media, go there and look for the statements that pop out to you. Look for the sentences that bring a feeling to your heart. And this doesn't have to be a feeling that brings you sadness, although sometimes when we miss someone, that may be the feeling that is most prevalent with us because we miss someone, right? And so we'll read something and it's touching and it reminds us of something precious, maybe a memory or a plan that we had together. And so we get this feeling of, it's kind of like heartache and sadness, but also those tingles because it brings a good feeling too. So it's like this mix of emotions. So if you have that response to something that you read, that's probably a good indication that that statement is important to you, it's meaningful, and it definitely belongs on your cards. If you come across a joke that your loved one posted online and you're like, that really encompasses his or her personality, I don't know how it would fit into an actual conversation with them, but that encompasses their personality, still put it on the card. Still put it on one of your cards. So again, if you're having a tough time remembering different phrases, if you can't think of how they might respond to different questions, go through their social media imprint, go through the text messages, go through the emails, go through the voicemails, see what you can gather from there. Now, once you have 10 cards ready, you can start the communication process. And here's what I would encourage you to do. You want to take your completed cards in your hand and you'll just put them in your hands like this. And you're going to pray over them. You're going to say to your loved one, I ask that you come forward and you use these cards to communicate with me. Like, please use these to give me answers, to prove that you're okay, and just let's use this as a means of communication. So it's kind of a way of dedicating these cards to them, but letting them know like, hey, we're trying something new. So remember how earlier I told you about my client who had made her own communication cards, and her father used the saying, it's good enough for company. So of course she put that on one of her cards because it's something he said frequently. So one day she was using her cards and she asked him, how do you like heaven? And the card she pulled was, it's good enough for company. I have another client who was fortunate enough to have acquired the journals of her mother when her mother passed away. And her mother loved to read, loved to write, and she was constantly making notes and writing down her thoughts. And so that ended up being a really wonderful gift for her when she decided to make these communication cards. And one of the things she remembered her mother saying was, I'm tickled pink. So when she was really excited about something, she'd say, I'm tickled pink. So the very first time my client made the communication cards, she put, of course, on one of the cards, I'm tickled pink. And she shuffled the cards and she asked her mom, okay, Mom, I've made these cards so that we can communicate with each other. What do you think about that? And after shuffling, she pulled the card that said, I'm tickled pink. And so, of course, my client couldn't help but to Google because it was such an on-point answer to the question that was asked. And that's how you'll know it's working. One other story for you is that I had another student who missed his best friend very much. His best friend had crossed over, and this young man was doing everything he could to make spirit contact. He had tried different divination tools. He used some of the methods in my Embracing Heaven online course, and of course he was working with these cards. And he really wasn't making as strong of a connection as he would have liked. And that was really frustrating to him. And so one of the things he felt led to write on his communication cards was "Don't give up." And so as he was working with the cards one day, and as he was feeling pretty frustrated and sad and missing his friend, he told his friend, like, "I'm trying to connect with you, and this just isn't working the way that I wanted to. What should I do?" And he pulled the card that said, "Don't give up." I do want to acknowledge that the cards are very limited in the information that they can provide you with, but it's still a really good start. They can still give you on-point clarification, and they can still give you answers that are on the nose for a lot of situations. Now, if you tried this method and you like it, or if you want to learn more ways to communicate with your loved one, then I'd like to invite you to check out my online course called Embracing Heaven: Connect with Your Friends and Family in Spirit. The Embracing Heaven online course is unlike any other course out there because I'm not teaching you how to connect to random spirits. I'm not teaching you mediumship, not exactly. I'm teaching you how to connect to your loved ones in spirit that you already have a connection to. I'm going to show you how to refine that connection so that you can receive communication from the other side, so that when your loved ones and when your family, when your friends in the spirit world communicate to you, when they speak to you, you will be able to hear them. When you wake up in the middle of the night and you miss their presence and you want to talk to them, I'll show you how to do that. When you have this overwhelming desire to share with them, to talk to them about what's going on in your life, I'm going to show you how you can do that. When you're missing their presence, when you're missing their touch, and you just want to hold them again, I will walk you through the steps that will allow you to get to a place within your consciousness where you can reach out to them and feel them once again. Now, this is a new form of communication, and I understand that, so it might seem scary. It might seem a little intimidating. You might be thinking to yourself, what if I can't do it? Don't worry, I have you covered. You can absolutely do this. I believe in you, and also this is your God-given gift. Remember, you are spirit, and when you transition, you're going to go back into spirit form. But you don't have to wait that long to connect with your loved ones. You can do it now. So in this course, I will lay the foundation so that you can get comfortable with the spirit communication methods that I'm going to teach you. What's awesome about this is that you don't have to be psychic. You don't have to be intuitive. You don't have to be the best at visualization. You're going to learn how to use your different senses. You're going to learn how to use different tools like your communication cards. So yes, I do go over that in the online course. You are going to learn how to use different meditations and different forms of journaling so that you can connect with your loved ones. So there will be moments of doubt. There will be times where you wonder if it's just in your head. But if you stick to it, if you stick to the program, if you follow the instructions, if you adopt the methods that really work well for you, you will make successful contact with the other side, and it will change your life. The problem isn't that you can't communicate with the spirit world. The problem is that no one's taught you how to do it. And that's what I'm going to do. So let me show you the methods. Let me show you the techniques. Let me show you the tools. Let me be your guide so that you can easily communicate with the other side. And remember, your loved ones in heaven, your loved ones in spirit want to communicate with you and want to connect with you as much as you want to connect with them. They are around you all the time. They are talking to you. They are giving you their support. They are telling you how much they love you and how much they miss you. And I believe that most of you can feel that, but because it's not coming forward in a more cohesive method, in a more cohesive physical form, it's easy to miss the message, and it's easy to think it's just in our imagination. So let's change that. Let's get you to a point where you're able to talk to your mom, your dad, your husband, your child, your friend, your loved one again. Don't give up on yourself. Don't let doubt get in the way of this. This is important. You can absolutely do this. So remember, your loved ones in spirit want to connect with you as much as you want to connect with them. You are worth the investment. This is worth the time because you are going to be learning skills and methods and techniques that will give you access to your friends, to your family for the rest of your life until it's your turn to transition. But again, you don't have to wait that long. You can talk to them now. Let me show you how it's done. I will have the link to the Embracing Heaven online course in the description area down below. And also, if you created your communication cards, if you tried them out, if you got amazing results, and I know so many of you will, please be sure that you share your results with me in the comment section, or if you want to keep it private, you can email me at hello@guidingechoes.com to share your experience with me. And again, if these work for you, but you're longing for something more, check out the Embracing Heaven online course. Sign up. You will not be sorry. I will see you in the next video.